My name is Adam Martin. I am the founder of F5 Project. I'm a 5-time felon, and I know what it feels like to be released from jail or a treatment center or detox or a homeless shelter into nothing. And so the idea was, like, could we do a better job by providing services in an F5 fashion, which was the function key on a keyboard, which was like refresh. So like every time we met someone, what would it look like if we treated them like none of that existed?
So F5 Project is a nonprofit organization. We help people who have addiction issues, homelessness, mental health, and ultimately try and give them a chance to change.
I had seen some trends happening with peer support where people with like real lived experience, they were going back to where they came from and they were helping people out of those situations. There's no better way to get over the stuff that happened to you in your past than to go and help people who are currently experiencing it.
Welcome everybody. This is F5 Recovery Radio here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. Super happy that you're with us. Another fantastic Wednesday. We're just really excited. I'm here joining my co-hosts Adam Martin and Kirsten Huvenen. So we're just really happy and thankful that we're able to do this. And shout out to Radio Free for allowing us to be able to share our stories and topics and really just have some shenanigans on the radio. It's kind of nice. Kirsten, yesterday, Valentine's Day, how was it? How'd Matt do?
Well, he did, I think, after 25 years, when I say, let's not get each other anything, that's what I actually mean. Let's really not do that. But it's my brother's birthday yesterday, so Matt and I drove to Alexandria, like turn and burn. We went there, came back, and put inappropriate things in my brother's lawn for his birthday. So, just so, he feels special.
Exactly.
But my son just recently started dating someone.
Ooh.
And he's like, she said not to do anything. We're like, that, you need to do something.
You haven't been together long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was nice. And then we had like a dinner, a lunch with the boys. And,
Ricky, I'm not going to...
That's fine.
Nothing special.
Yeah.
We can scooch in.
Yeah.
What about you? What'd you do? You just had a baby.
Yeah, so we just kept it real chill. Stayed inside. Got some, I think Cashwise had this like heart, like box meal type thing. So it had like 2 pieces of salmon and some asparagus, and you can just, just throw it in the oven and kind of do that. So it's kind of nice. Just did that, and
So you cooked?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So just made it really simple and easy, and then King was fussing the whole time, and so I was just like, I don't care. I'm just going to eat the salmon. Like, he can wait the 2 minutes. I scarfed it and then took care of him and then went back and actually, like, enjoyed our dessert and all that other stuff. So it was nice.
That's the rest of your life now.
Yeah.
And you'll be more patient. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
For
I just want the world to know I brought Kirsten coffee. Ricky did not bring anything.
Nope. I brought myself.
She's the radio mom. I was going to say radio wife, but there's too many people listening. Take that way out of context. I think this one's like...
I know, we couldn't figure out how to like tighten
janky.
it. Yeah, just a little bit. Oh, okay.
It's just like a date.
Oh, yeah. Just dangling.
Microphone dangling in your face.
This is what it feels. So dude, we got a ton of snow today.
Yeah.
When I was looking last night, I looked out the window and like my window kept like getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So like the 2 windows side by side. So like when I walked out, it looked like 2 eyes looking at me. And I was like, well, it's probably just because it's windy.
Yeah.
And then I went outside to the driveway and there was drifts like up to probably beyond my knees. But thank goodness it was soft, like soft snow, like cold, soft snow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would have sucked trying to plow that out.
Yep.
I was happy that Matt didn't have to do much to shovel because he does that. I wasn't going to do it.
I was at the office the other day. I guarantee you, when I get over there, I'm going to have to shovel.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 2 offices. We got the Ridge and we have F5.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them, every time I get there, never shoveled. And I'm like, man, you know what? This will be my service work for the day. Make sure that nobody gets hurt on their way in to see our people. And then, but it never fails. I always have this expectation it's going to be done. when I get there and it's never done.
Yep.
But
Well, that is relationships, kind of, isn't it?
Yeah.
oh my goodness.
Oh,
So that's why I brought it up, because I asked the girls that work, at F5 in the Ridge. I was like, we were talking about shoveling, and I was like, yeah, I gotta get out there early and shovel, and sometimes Christy helps, and or whatever. And then they're like, Christy shovels, and I was like, yeah, don't you guys? And they're like, no, I've never shoveled in my life. I was like, are you serious? What? How do you live in North Dakota and never have shoveled in your life?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's privilege.
Yeah. It's good exercise. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I really think that it's just going to melt in the spring anyway. So, I mean, shoveling a lot is probably not necessary, but
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel the same.
Yeah. That's true. So that's the thing. That's the perfect.
Matt's a big guy.
Yeah.
His mustache shovels. His
Food into
mustache
his face?
reminds me of Chuck Norris, because I bet he could just walk outside in the snow and just melt.
Just cowering in
Just-
fear.
Cowering.
Oh, I'm water now.
Dilworth has no idea what it was in for when the Hoovers moved there.
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's an awesome transition, because today's topic,
Big
we're going to
men.
talk about
It's all right.
big men in recovery.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about family and relationships. If you're not on the radio, you can just see Adam flexing. Like I don't know if we can bring guns in KRFF, but he brought them today.
Whoa, I'm a felon, bro.
Oh.
That's on radio.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I'm in his arms. I'm sorry. I realized I said
If
that.
the Attorney General is listening, I do not have any firearms on me, nor will I ever. I give you my word.
Yeah.
We're just talking about these guns. If you're listening, we're talking about my arms.
Yes. Yep. Take us to the gun show.
What do they call it? Swole?
I'm swole.
Yeah.
He's like, he said arms and firearms, and then he's going to jail. Can't even talk about him.
Yep. Everybody listening. Yeah. So wanted to kind of just kick it off and just talk about, like, what are some of your like personal relationships that you have now thanks to recovery? Kind of just start off really easy. And,
Oh.
yeah.
Well, Kirsten's one of my personal friendships that I've gained in recovery.
Yeah.
That's been a long time.
It's like 20. Well, I've known Kirsten since like 2001, 2002.
Okay.
And she had been sober for, well, how long have you
3
been?
years, I suppose.
3 years?
97.
That's so weird to think.
I know.
Like, because when I came in, I was like 20 years old.
Okay.
Right? So I'm 41 now, but I'm only been sober for 10 years, or coming up on 10 years.
Mm.
And so for that first 10 years or 13 years or something like that,
Yeah.
I never really stayed. I mean, I stayed sober. I had a lot of friends in AA, and went to and did a lot of stuff with them, and but I'd never really stayed sober. But Kirsten was like there when I first got there. And I remember I was in the church. I was behind the bowler in the church, and like it was just kind of weird because I'd been to AA before. My dad went, to over in Moorhead, and I went there, and they were just like a bunch of old dudes, and then like old women that like. And I was like I don't know if you've ever been. You've been to yeah. So like, there's always the one kid.
Yes.
There's always that one kid in the back of the room that's like, he's going to be in AA in the future, right? And I think everyone knew that one day Adam Martin was going to show up to a meeting, because I was super hyper, starving for attention, and so I would just like disrupt meetings and stuff, and all the guys would just like look over at me and give me that dad look, and then the moms would just like totally make me feel comfortable and like pinch my cheeks and, give me kisses and hugs and stuff and tell me how good it was to see me. And Kirsten was always kind of like that kind of person with, people in AA. And so like I had like a super like recovery crush on Kirsten and Aaron,
Oh, yeah.
right? Like, cause they were like the only two like girls that were
That does up
stable.
my chances.
Yeah. He's like, you're sober? Oh, brownie points.
It's just a numbers game.
I think every guy, and because we didn't really know any girls that were in recovery, so it was like super cool, So, and then she's just always kind of been like that, rock, along the journey or whatever. Like, you don't always like, we didn't like hang out all the time, but she was always there. So it was, and then her husband Matt's like super best friend. I can't, one time when I was still like drinking, and I was stealing and breaking into cars and stuff, and I broke into this car and I found this like these shoes, like they were like Jordans or something like that, or Nikes. And I was like, oh, those are nice. Yoink, took them and went back to my house, and then woke up the next morning and I was like, oh my God, I have all this stolen stuff. I got to do something with it. And then I saw the shoes. I was like, oh, nice. So I put the shoes on, and they were like size 15 or something. And I was like, how am I going to do with these? And then just by chance later that day, I ran into Matt. And I'm like, Matt, I bought these shoes that are way too big for me. You should have them. And they fit him perfect. I think he still has them. So... And then I told him like 3 years later, I was like, I stole those. He's like, I figured. Nobody accidentally buys size 15.
For someone else.
Yeah.
But I could tell him that, and he was just like, yeah, whatever. We're just a bunch of guys trying to stay sober.
Right.
You were drinking, if you were doing that when you were trying to be sober, that's different,
Right.
But.
And that never really mattered. Just the fact that you kept coming back was really awesome.
Yeah.
And do you remember when they put us in charge of entertainment and how much trouble we got in?
You know the
smokes.
news update on Saturday Night Live?
Yep.
Kirsten and I did that for an event.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I mean, it was
It
good.
was super
okay.
hilarious.
Yeah.
It's
Well, I
got
can
to be
see-
recorded.
So
I
many
know we have it
sensitive
somewhere.
people.
But we were, this was back in, early 2000 before,
Okay.
you could say that about any generation, but like before it got really important about what words you use and what you can say on TV.
Oh,
It's
sure.
really similar to the news update now
Okay.
in Saturday Night Live
Yeah.
without all the racism.
Right.
Well, there might have been some, but who knows? I mean,
Right.
this was back. It was to be joking, not hurtful, but yeah, it was. I don't even remember. I just remember we said some things about a couple people in our home group where they were just like, "You said that." Holy cow.
Oh, no.
But people were laughing. Oh my God. Yeah.
What
I
did
do.
they
That
expect?
was
They put us two in
yeah,
charge
we're
of
gonna
that.
put
Right.
Adam and Kirsten in charge of entertainment for a roundup.
This will
Oh,
be
I love
wholesome.
roundups.
Who
too.
are the most raw, funny, inappropriate people
Yeah.
that they probably know, and then expect no collateral damages. I was doing stand-up comedy
Oh, so this is
in
back
the
then.
process.
right,
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was like, I'm using this as an opportunity, and we did it in front of
Yeah.
I bet you there was like 300 people, and we recorded it and then played it
Yeah.
at this thing. And I sat in the back of the room just sweating. I was like, oh my God.
If anybody has that, we have to watch
Somebody's
that
gotta
again. Because
have
that
it.
was, I have no regrets about that. I absolutely think that was a blast.
Yeah.
And just getting together to make it was so fun. But
Oh man, I swear I watched it on someone's something years later. So somebody's got to have it.
Yeah.
So
That'd be so great to see it again.
yeah,
Maybe
I was
not.
young.
Though,
I was
depending on-
I was early 20s
Mm-hmm.
trying to do like funny stuff on camera.
I thought you were funny. So
Yeah, we were
if you have one fan, that's good enough, right?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's been a really long relationship. In spite of all that happens in the middle, it's just like this. You don't even care. Like, you just don't even care. We get time together now, and that's great.
Right. Yeah. Do you guys still have? So this is like more of not a planned question, but I just thought of this right now, so go with it. Do you guys still have people in your life now that were in your life before you got sober, before you got clean?
Oh.
Just that you still like not just see them in passing and say what's up, but like actually like actively still in your life.
Well, I'm from Fargo Moorhead, so
Okay.
a lot of people that I went to high school with or
Mhm.
used with later are still around, but a good chunk of them are either in prison or dead.
You're friends with Adam, you get 10 to 15.
Well, I had a girl that showed up to a thing yesterday, and she was pretty new to recovery, and she was like, she was like, "Do you remember me?" I was like, "Yeah, I remember you." And she was like, "It's so weird that the first time I ever used drugs was with you." And I'm like,
Snap.
and the place we were at, like, it was like, "Oh, okay." Like, maybe you could talk, and
Were you like, it was my first time, too.
yeah. We did it together our
Yeah.
first time, and it was just weed, so it wasn't like, we were like 13, like smoking weed in a garage, in North Moorhead. Find a North Moorhead garage where that hasn't happened, like But it was just weird. So, I mean, most of the people that I come in contact with from my past are trying to, like, get sober.
Yep.
Like, if they're connected to me today. So there's, but outside of that, just family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, for you, Kirsten.
Yeah, well, we moved a lot growing up, so there wasn't, I didn't have any, like, friends that was super close. But when I lived in Jamestown, I had this group of girls that I still adore all of them. And we were called the Combat Boot Squad.
Okay.
And we wore combat boots with sundresses or whatever, very, very, rebellious.
Yep.
Anyway, and that's, like, regrettably, that's kind of where my life, I disconnected from them because they didn't have alcoholism or addiction. They didn't use like I did, and they were, like, put together and whatever. But so now every once in a while, like, hit and miss, I get to chat with them. But there's no other than family, really.
Did you bring dog treats?
Oh, those are already here.
Oh, they're here? We can bring our dogs?
I don't know.
They bring Odin?
Maybe.
Oh, I don't know if he'd like you. He's kind of like that
like
crappy
so
dog
sometimes.
on Family Guy.
He's like,
He
every
just
once in a
like lays around and then he sees a black guy and just goes nuts. I'm like, what is wrong with you? So embarrassing, bro. God.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
But sometimes, like, every once in a while, like, there's been a single handful of times that he's been, like, chill in the office.
Yeah.
He's okay with me. But most of the time.
That is unreal.
is
With
super.
nobody else? Is it just Ricky?
Oh,
or?
no. It's criminals. Like no, if somebody comes in wearing like their hood or something like that, or if they just storm in, like he's just really timid all the time.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's, but if or like when I bring him to the office, I brought him to the office the other night and he went into Scott's office and he did not bark at Scott, but he was just shaking the whole time. So he's just going to be a home dog.
Yep.
He ain't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay with it. I'm gone. And so, family's at home or whatever. He just aggressively barks at whatever comes to the door. That's better than a shotgun.
Yeah.
Like, it's the sound. It's like you're not scared. Like, you hear the shotgun, then you're more scared.
Right.
It's like the dog. Like, there's a dog in there, but then you hear him. You're like, that's a big dog.
Yeah.
So, he's just.
I have Matt answer the door. The
He's a
mustache,
big dog, too.
Yeah.
That mustache, man.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you have people from before
Yeah.
you made the paper?
His bookies.
Yeah.
I know, like, a lot of I was trying to think. I was like, yeah, a lot of those. I think, but there's a couple that have, like, kind of recently come, not recently, but probably within the last year, who I haven't seen in a very, very long time, but just knew, for one reason or another, just kind of like just either disconnected themselves or maybe I disconnected. I don't know, whatever the reason was, but that have, like, come back around and we got, like, reconnected through Facebook, or they found me on, like, LinkedIn or something else, like something social. And then I saw them out and then it was like, hey, and it was kind of like that, hey, like where they're like trying to, like, how do I, as the person who didn't go through this, how do I navigate that with you without taking offense? Because I want to know, I'm curious or nosy, really, but how do I, like, do that with you? And then it's like, yeah, no, life's, like, really great. And so then it's, like, been this, like, really cool, hey, this is what my last 5 years have been like, give or take. And this is what I'm going through. I got married, or I was married at the time, but, like, I have a kid now, like, just all these different things that have been, like, really positive that aren't covered because I've, I don't know, just various reasons I haven't just posted a lot of things.
You and Jill aren't married?
We are.
Oh.
Yeah. But, like, a lot of people just assume we got divorced. And then one guy was like, hey, man, I thought you moved back to California. I was like, why would you think that? He was like, well, because you were in the paper all the time. I was like, so you thought I ran? Like,
to get out of
I
town.
love hearing people's perspective of what they thought. Last night, one of the girls she was like, yeah, I heard F5 stopped doing women's housing a while back. And I was like, yeah. They're like, yeah, it's kind of weird why you stopped it. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, because girls are too much drama is why you stopped it. I was like,
Oh my
I love them
gosh,
telling us.
yeah. I was like,
Who
I'm
told you that?
Adam, right? I was like, we didn't have any females working here,
Right.
or whatever, And she's like, oh, that makes sense. I'm like, yeah.
way more sense.
Right.
Than,
I was like, to be honest with you, like when I talk to female sober living owners or whatever, they're like, we want men's houses, like, because the females are a lot of drama, a lot of work. And I'm like, listen, I'm okay with women's housing because they, like, women normally, from what I've seen, don't really get along with other women, but they get along with guys. So if a guy has character and integrity or whatever, he could actually probably officially run a women's house. Because they were like, showed up to all the meetings, they listened, they, whatever. It was when I wasn't around.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
They just, one time I was just like, all right, bed checks or whatever. And they're like, yeah, we're all there. You don't have to show up. I was like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you have a good night, guys. And then I went.
Right.
Nobody was home.
Right.
And I was like, all right, just checking in. Everybody good? Everybody tucked in? And they're like, yeah, we're all home. I was like, took a picture of the house. I was like, are you?
Because I'm here.
Right.
I love that. I think women in recovery is definitely a passion of mine. They're so, I don't know. There's just so much, like, I didn't know how to have relationships until I was sober for a while. And it wasn't like I was going to fix anything in my life till I got sober. But women were like, I would always say I get along better with guys than I do with women.
Like
but,
prior to recovery too?
Yeah, and
Okay.
in recovery.
Always, yeah.
And
Okay.
it's because guys, you guys are easy, like I can get the compliment I need, I can get the shoveling done, I can get, you know what I mean?
It's like Facebook. Like like when you quit your job and you're like, yeah, I quit my job. They're like, yeah, screw those guys. But you
Right.
quit your job because you're about to get fired because you weren't showing up. You know what I mean? That's how
get
how guys are with girls. They're just like, oh, I'm just not feeling well today. Can I get you something? I brought you some coffee.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
But truthfully, the longer you're around, the more you learn how to have a healthy relationship with women and with men. You know what I mean? Where there's no strings attached or no expectations or no just like, I just hate you because you're a girl or whatever. And the women always into recovery, the women say, the women saved me.
Yeah.
The guys got me to
when
come
there's
here.
drama, it usually is resolved pretty quickly.
Yeah.
It's from what I've seen. So,
Oh.
Well, you got to read something?
Yeah.
What do you
Wanna
got to
read
read here?
Read that top. Commercial break.
All right, commercial break for 95.9 Radio Free Fargo. This is Flatland Guitar. Just read all this? Okay. Suck at commercials. Programming at KRFF, LPFM, Radio Free Fargo. I just said that. 95.9 FM is being underwritten by Flatland Guitar and Luthery. Luthery. Flatland Guitar is your full-service guitar shop and your executive dealer for Yamaha, Taylor, Paul Reed Smith guitars, and other brands. They sell guitars on consignment. They take trade-ins, have full service on-site repair center. Check out Flatland Guitar and Luthery. Is that what it was?
Yep.
On Facebook, or visit them in person at 1450 25th Street South in Fargo. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 10 to 6, Saturdays, 10 to 5, and close on Sundays for guys like Ricky.
Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, I nailed it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So if you're just tuning in, this is F5 Recovery Radio here on KRFF 95.9 LPFM. Talking about relationships and family today, which is always really cool to just really dive into. So next question. Want to kind of jump into... Oh, any people commenting?
I don't know. I was going to check. Go ahead.
Okay. So kind of the next just kind of perspective, wanted just to share about recovering relationships. So we talked about obviously people who are still in our lives and what our relationships are like now that we are in recovery. But just want to kind of just dive a little deeper and just share like what are some of the the relationships that you haven't repaired even though you're in recovery? Because I know there's some, obviously I have some in mind that I'm, you do your amends or make your amends and they haven't either been accepted or just a couple people in mind specifically that I'm thinking of that just haven't been able to like repair that relationship even though I've been clean and doing all the things. So what are, if you can feel comfortable to share, like what are some of those you don't have to obviously be specific,
for
but
sure.
what are some of those relationships that you wish you could have or hope to still?
I was excited to do this today because I guess I'm considered an old timer, very vibrant, but
Okay.
and you know, like you.
Nobody's
the
ever
GA
said vibrant.
Oh, close. That's what they
Vivacious.
meant.
Or whatever. She's an old timer.
And I've been in, married for a long time and all of this, but I think the relationships that maybe when I started making amends, I was doing it probably for the wrong reasons. I wanted to have them say, "Oh, that's okay. It was no big deal," or whatever. And that just wasn't going to happen, and I can't control anybody else but me. And so it's just like I know that I've kept my side of the street clean. And the thing about an amends is that you can say sorry as many times as you want, and it means nothing. Because by the time I got into recovery, sorry meant nothing, But it's the living
it's a
amends
little
afterwards.
2-year-old girl that's saying it over, like, then I'm...
Okay, yeah.
I can't... She cannot mean it at all, and it just says, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you want a pony?
I know. Yeah.
Little boys,
Kids
I'm like,
push you to the brink.
Yeah.
And then they say, "I love you," and I love them.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think there's a few out there that I didn't get the, it's okay, blah, blah, blah. And that is fine with me. I truly believe in forgive everyone everything. And like I've cleaned my side of the street, but all that's done now. And so I get to enjoy this day and the next day. And I'm done saying like, I'm going to be happy when. I'm going to be happy when I finish college. I'm going to be happy when I get married and trap a man. I'm going to be happy when, you know what I mean?
Yep.
It just never comes because that's not what it was about ever. And it's just making time for the relationships in my life. Because that's all you can give people is time, you know?
Yeah. Relationship and family is probably out of all the, things that you get in recovery has probably been the hardest one for me. I'm not easy to live with. I'm not easy to, not easy to deal with. I'm just, some people are like, oh, he's like an amazing social entrepreneur. And actually, I'm just like super ADHD and creative. Like that's, and creative because I'm bored,
Okay.
like I think I just think a lot, and, so with that comes a level of sensitivity and, being in my head too much and stuff. So it's like, I've learned more probably on the job training being in a family than, I had no idea. I was 4 years sober before I got in a committed relationship again.
4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I was,
okay.
Well, but hanging out with chicks and whatever, like women. Sorry, and I went on a couple dates,
Sure.
but it wasn't like, I wasn't like committed. I just wasn't interested. I was like on the build, right? So it was just anything I added to my life just kind of got in the way, right? And the only things that I wanted to get in the way was like my sons,
right,
and my recovery. Like that was it. And I just wasn't. I mean, if it would have made itself available, maybe.
Sure.
I just wasn't really looking. So, and then I got in a relationship when I was like 4 years, and I'll tell you, man, I don't care how good your recovery is. Like you could be hand in hand with your Lord and Savior himself, and he is the beacon of your recovery, and you're doing amazing, and you feel like you're walking on water. Get in a relationship, like, because you're taking. I think better understand the whole for better or worse part now, because it's like, or sickness and health or whatever. Like, I'm not married, but like, man, like you have a bunch of unresolved trauma and things that you haven't processed, and your addiction and all that stuff. Right. And then you take all theirs, maybe they're addict or alcoholic or not. Right. They still have life that has happened to them, and we're on our best behavior when we first meet each other. So you're just like, this guy is amazing, right? Or this female is amazing because they're on their best behavior. Right. They're not doing the things that that are bad habits or the argument, and so then you just think like, she's the one. I've come to learn it's like, think about all the things that you don't like, right? Is that something that you can deal with or be okay with for the rest of your life?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's really what a relationship is like, take all the bad stuff from their side and take all the bad stuff from your side. And then, like, are you okay with it and willing to, like, work on your own stuff and let them work on their stuff if they want to, or if they even recognize that it's a thing?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and so it's a struggle because there's times where it's just like, you know, I'm just not doing emotionally well that day and I don't feel like talking. You know what I mean? Well, it's hard to communicate that.
Right.
You know? Like, because I don't even know. I just know that I feel like crap.
Right.
And then, you know, then they get sensitive because they're just like, he doesn't want to talk. He doesn't love me. Or something, right? Like, fill in the blank with whatever girls think about. Or, you know, like if you walk into the house or whatever and then, you know, you just get the look. And you're just like, you know what? I'm just going to go. Like, it's probably, I've learned is that, like, you know, take, you know, their like I said, their worst habits, your worst habits. And it's like, can you be graceful and tolerant enough? And, like, even when you do screw up and yell or say things that you don't mean, or you just, you know, I was listening to Bill Burr the other day on like, you know, I think I maybe sent it to you, but like how women fight, right? And so, like, if you're in an argument with your lady and she's all over the place, right? She knows she's wrong, whatever it is, right? So she's picking at like you're just like your father, you know, or whatever, like, and it has nothing to do with your dad, you know. But if she's on point and not swaying away from whatever that point is, you've lost. Like, you just take the loss, take the L, right? And just, you're right. You're 100%. Like, what can I do if, you know, and if they're going all over the place, take the W, but just surrender. You know what I mean? Because they're not gonna, like, they probably won't stop.
Yeah,
and
you don't need to say all that. Like, I'm just gonna take the W.
I'm gonna take the W.
Yep.
No, you don't say anything. But, like, usually for me in the past, and what I still struggle with in like a relationship, is that, like, it becomes more about, like, what my sponsor tells it. Like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Right? And I can't think of anything in the last 10 years of any relationship that I've ever been in, or 20 years of something that we fought about, that I can even remember what it was about.
Right.
And so it's usually the heat of the moment with a bunch of other stuff that's, you know, when I get excited because of stuff that's going on in my life and I go home and my family is not as excited as I am, it creates a little bit of kind of a toxicity, right? Or if I'm angry and I come home, like, I need to have drive time before I come home from work. Yeah. You know, I got to prepare myself, you know. And so, you know, like, my sponsor, he was like, who's the most, you know, important people in your life or whatever? I'm like, oh, my family. That's the easy answer. But if you look at the way I treat my clients and my customers and how I'm always there for them and I'm traveling, it looks like, you know, but here's the secret. If there's ladies listening, here's the secret. I don't like them better, right? I know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, when I'm working with clients and I'm not freaking out or I'm not, like, getting angry because I know what the solution is, or I know what they're trying to buy. When I worked at Hyper, like, it's easy for me to do that stuff because I'm not overwhelmed and insecure and whatever. But when I go home, I don't know how to fix that stuff. Right? Well, communication. Well, I get angrier when we're communicating. So it's like, I don't know. That's my perspective.
Well, I just want to mention, like, the whole, like, they tell men, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Leads us to think that you're always right and you're just, like,
oh, yeah, I suppose.
You know, being like, oh, yeah, that you're so smart, you know, whatever. That's patronizing. Anyway.
Well, just for context.
Yeah, for
like,
real.
when they were telling me, like, do you want to be right or do you want happy? It was like, you're arguing to try and prove that you're right. And you're probably, like, do you want to just be right? Like, do you just want to be right all the time, or do you want to be happy? Because, because 90% of the time, I was not right.
You
know what I mean?
Oh, for real, yeah.
And I was trying to make you think I was right, because for some reason it was going to produce happiness.
Right.
But there's no, like, in a relationship that you're the thing about relationships is you're completely transparent makes for the healthiest, but to say, like, I always think, or I always tell my family, anytime somebody's voice raises in a discussion, it is done being about understanding each other. Now it is about, I want to win, so that's just like time where we gotta take a break. But I think that, like, in recovery for myself and my husband, probably the only thing we've done right consistently is to put our recovery before each other, before our kids. And when that doesn't happen, it just gets wonky, Okay. But this way, I married my best friend. I get to hang out with my best friend all the time, and I think that we're both, over the years, of course, you learn to take less and less personal, because really nothing is about me, and I try and not take anything personal. I always give the example, if I came home and Matt was with, like, Double D Debbie, that has nothing to do with me, really. It's about him and his baggage and all of that stuff. That does not mean I will not burn all of his crap in the front yard and then wait for the cops. But, in hindsight, you could see, like, that wasn't my thing to do. But he has never done that. And I think that we're both willing to hear constructive criticism, even if it's not constructive. Even when, like yesterday, we went to a basketball game for our middle son, and my husband gets involved. You know what I mean? And I'm just more like, let's just be good examples. We don't need to be yelling at refs and stuff like that.
Sideline coaching.
And so that was like, I'm just going to do it the way I do it. And I'm like, okay, well, okay.
I'll
you know
be
what I
over
mean?
here.
I just,
Yeah.
and the other thing that actually Matt taught me was with our kids, like, I always tried to be in control of the relationship they had, and I think one day Matt just said, I will have my own relationship with our kids. You know what I mean? You have your own. Pretty much stay out of mine. And which is what I needed to hear. I do not need to coddle them or have their relationship be something I think it should be. Right. It just is going to be, And now that you have a son, that's
meaningful.
Yeah.
I need to that.
It's hard after you have kids because you're like, I know I'm not the person that you married. I look different. I'm like, everything is different. And so, but for you guys, it's not. So it's hard to be like, okay, am I still attractive? Am I too tired? You know what I mean? And all of that stuff. And then you just get sensitive. I mean, it can be a whole snowball thing, but I think the transparency, just to be able to say, even just to say, like, I am crabby and I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't know why. So that's that. And then just to, respect your significant other's space. But that's
why
20
I grew
years
a beard, by the way.
Why?
So I could stay attractive.
Oh,
yeah.
You'd always be attractive.
No. He cut his beard and it was...
I did it one time.
Yeah.
Did you see that video where I cut my beard and it was baby's first time seeing me without a beard?
Yep. That was everyone's reaction.
Yeah. What did she do?
I covered my face and I walked in. I was like, baby. And she come running up and then I looked up and then she's like... And then she just walked away. She was like, "You sound like Daddy. You don't look like
disapprove.
him." Yeah. So
that's
she was
funny.
she teared up.
Yeah.
I think that she probably would now too, because she's super used to it now. She's only gone, and she probably doesn't even remember that. So now it's now it's just like Dad's face,
right?
I can do the trick again.
Yeah,
because you forget.
Yeah, let's see how she does. So if you're just tuning in, this is KRFF 95.9 LPFM. This is F5 Recovery Radio. This is One Pretty Ricky. I'm joined by my co-hosts Kirsten Huvenen and Adam Martin. We're talking about family and relationships. And for this last kind of segment and things, just wanted to, Kirsten kind of just talked about it, so I just want to dive into a little deeper even more. Talking about just in our family and our relationships, and she mentioned a really good point of putting your recovery in front of or before, your family and before a lot of those relationships. Some people who might be tuning in, we never know where people's struggles are or where they might be, but I always try to make sure we have something that we can we always give them some things to think about, but just something to kind of help them on their journey as they, after we get off. So what does that look like, or what's some suggestions that you both can share, because you've been in this so long, or been in recovery so long? What does that look like? What does that look like, putting your recovery before your family? How can you help other people do that?
Sure.
Is that doing anything? I just pressed a bunch of buttons.
There are buttons here.
Did you hear that?
He can't not touch them.
Did you hear the fart?
No.
That was what that is. A dump.
Oh.
Right? I heard a fart, unless you farted.
No. Or just like a cough. Like, so if you say something weird, I could
we
just
have a
put the cough button.
soundboard.
I don't know what it's doing.
All right, back to what we were
Anyway,
doing.
sorry.
Yeah.
ADHD. This is why I struggle.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, my husband's similar, so.
I love your husband.
I think that, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I didn't get sober, and then they said, wait a year, all of those suggestions. I waited 10 minutes, and I found another hostage that could make me feel better, because I didn't have the chemicals anymore to make me feel good. So you just start searching for the next shiny thing, the next distraction that makes me feel enough,
Yeah.
And I truthfully have watched a lot of people walk through recovery. I think whatever your reason is for coming back to another meeting, that's good enough. You know what I mean? Because truthfully, the reason I went to meetings for the first year or whatever was because I was dating this guy. And it was my husband's roommate. But then in doing that, and it all works out, right? Because then I got, Matt and I were, we hung out a lot, and we just became really close friends, which ended up working in our favor because we were so bad at relationships. And I always thought it was the dudes, and once you get into recovery and you get a sponsor, and then when Matt, in a very awkward way, asked me out, my first thought was just like, I need to talk to my sponsor, because I really do like you, and I don't want to mess this up.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that we don't have to hash out together because we have a sponsor. There's a lot of things I understand differently. It's just like you can see someone's relationship so clearly, and then yours is so muddled in your brain for some reason.
Yeah.
But to put recovery first it just looks like when we were dating, if there was a girls' night and I'm like, oh, but my boyfriend wants to hang out, go to the girls' night. Be active in that. Stick with your meetings. He is not your new sponsor. You don't get to, you know what I mean?
Right.
That just doesn't work like that. Although initially it might feel like that, but, and I learned a lot of things in putting recovery first that, maybe if I'm just nice to him, then things go smoother. I mean, simple things like, why didn't I think of that? Or if I quit complaining about my husband and be his biggest fan, because I really am, but you just get caught up in the details, and then you have careers and kids, and you have to remember to date each other. And having that accountability with a sponsor in meetings is that reminder to be like, all right, I did that wrong or whatever, and being willing to learn and apologize. And Matt's great about that. He will hear me out and say, fair enough, I'll change that, or you're crazy. You change what you need to change, Anyway, it's cute whatever
I
he
think
does.
there's a couple, when we talk about putting, at least from my interpretation or what the guys that I have sponsored or even done peer support for is it can mean different in different recovery walks or whatever. So for some it's if you commit to doing something in your recovery or whatever, you make sure you do it. You do what you say you're going to do. And so if you're committed to go take a guy to a meeting or whatever, and then you happen to double that commitment, and you're supposed to do something with your family, right? Some people think you go to the meeting. Right. And back in the old school days, that's what it was. You did not skip anything if you were asked to do something in an AA, almost to the point where it was if you had a different commitment before this one, you still do recovery. But now, as we've grown and kind of evolved as a nationwide organization, and subcultures have started. Like, it's really like, practicing the principles that we've learned there, right? Putting my recovery first or whatever. Early recovery, it's like putting it first is like, I need to go to these many meetings, and I got to, stick to that, be transparent with my sponsor, be current, right? Like, it didn't really, there wasn't a lot of things you needed to put it in front of, but here's the secret sauce. The things that I put my recovery in front of, I still have today, right? I still have my family. I got a great job, right? Because I prioritize my recovery in front of the things that I put in front of my recovery. I don't have today. I lost it. I ruined it. Right? I didn't put the principles around it. Right? Whether it was friendships or relationships or money. Right? Like whatever the case was. Right? And so I struggle with it a little bit with F5 or whatever, because it's like, I'm the CEO, so it's like I have to be completely sold out for it. Like if I'm not, then who else? How do you lead by example if you're not leading by example? So, but at the same time, and I've learned like, to being a man in recovery or whatever, there's things that I can and can't do or whatever. I can't sponsor 15 guys. Like I'm just not good at it. Right. Like I'm not really that good at sponsorship, but I'm really good at like, getting and providing opportunities to like start meetings or help with conferences or, pick up chairs or whatever, like labor kind of, stuff, but like emotional connection, like one-on-one conversations, I really struggle with it because I'm thinking about like 15 other things that I could do to fix this. I'm a fixer, and, sponsorship is not fixer stuff. It's helpful, stuff. So I'm learning, on it or whatever, especially, if you're a loved one and you have someone who's getting into recovery and you're like, man, they were gone all the time when they were going to the bar and like the trap house, and now they're gone all the time going to, recovery meetings or whatever. Like, what's the difference? At least I got to see them more when they were using, or whatever. But it's not, here's two things. One, it's not always going to be this way. Right. Eventually they will grow out of like going to it all the time and they'll start participating in life more. And two, as much as it probably feels like it's the same, it's not. It's not. You don't have to worry about them going to like a AA or an NA meeting when they're actually in recovery and dying. Right. You know what I mean? Like, or, disappearing for 3 weeks at a time, or, them not participating in their kid's life. Like, they're learning how to live life. Right. And right now, the recovery circle for them is their incubator. It's like a mom being pregnant. They're in the belly right now, just kind of learning how to like getting strength in their legs by, when people are holding the belly and you see the, the soccer kicks, or, you know what I mean? Like they're just learning. And so just think of them as like a baby right now as they're, I mean, I'm 10 years almost and I'm still a baby in some aspects. And
encourage those connections.
Encourage them, and then ignore the negative ones, right? Like, because it's, I mean, they've never lived life sober since they were a kid, right? And so with just that mindset, a lot of the stuff that they see is still like a kid, and that's probably why you'll see them quick to anger and confused or indecisive, or like we talked about in relapse prevention last night. It's like when you're in early recovery, your whole life has been about like absolute rights and absolute wrongs, right? Like if I go into a point where it's just so hard for you to make a decision on like which job to take because you feel like it's a right and wrong thing when it's just a left and right thing, right? And so we get really legalistic about our thought process, which is trauma. It's a stress response, right? Like you're in survival mode. You see a bear, you run, right? You don't have to think about it. Well, it's the same thing with like, I have a job opportunity. Like it's almost like you're viewing it as a bear, because it's just like anytime I do something, I ruin it. Anytime I make a decision, I live in this cycle, right? And so it's like you'll hear guys say, well, the only time I'm sober is when I'm locked up. Right. Because they don't have the choice. And then they start thinking, well, I don't have a choice anymore. Like I'm always going to use. And so that's why it gets really hard to like commit to anything.
And then they get sober, and it's like they're overwhelmed with all the stuff I want to fix. Like, now I have it together. I want to go fix it all and say I'm sorry and whatever. Just hang on. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, none of this is going to get fixed overnight. But if you're not sober, it's never going to get fixed, you know? So, like, get the sober part solid. And then with a healthy recovery, whatever that is, you will work through all of the things from your past if that's what you want to do. You know what I mean? But really, it's like every small positive decision you make today builds an awesome future tomorrow, even though they seem tedious and annoying today. Because to be new in recovery, there's no nice way to put it. You're going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to want to do it. And you're just going to be. So just be uncomfortable, you know? But you were willing to be uncomfortable before, you know, when they were handing out your outfit going in the back of the courthouse. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and you know, probably the greatest thing is when your mindset shifts, and you see that it's all just been one journey, right? It's not a cycle. You know, I think a lot of people fall victim to the belief that they're living in this vicious cycle because they put too much pride in the idea of like a sobriety date, or that I used to be sober, or I did it that one, you know, and so then they're like, I'm starting over on day one or whatever, you know.
Bullet.
Yeah, like there's some kind of thing that's going to happen for them that's going to stop this vicious cycle, but it's not a vicious cycle. It's a journey, right? The same recovery. So like when I'm talking to people. And I know, like, there's a lot of people in recovery circles that don't agree with this. So, but I don't really care if they agree with me. I have been in recovery for 20 years. That's how I view it. From the minute I made the very first decision that I was going to try and be sober, my recovery journey started, right? I'm not making the argument that that relapse is a part of recovery. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the day that I made the decision and I meant it, that was the day that my recovery journey started. If there was relapses or uses that happened in there, it doesn't mean that I'm not in recovery, right? Even people with cancer fall into remission. They've been in recovery since the day they start, or not remission, but it comes back, right, or whatever. Or reappears, you know, even after they did all the chemo and stuff like that. Does that mean that they weren't cancer free for a while?
Right.
No, it doesn't. It means that it came back, and you have to. There's some things you need to deal with. So then you're still on the journey.
I like that journey. And like journey. When you're out, when you're not in the meetings, like don't shut people out. Like you don't have to go give them money, but a phone call isn't, you know what I mean, doesn't hurt. Or and this and for them and for families, here's the thing that I see the most that they probably misunderstand. Struggling is growth, right? If someone says that they're struggling, right, a lot of times in recovery they think, well, see, it's not working, right? But my argument is that if you're struggling, that means it is working, because you weren't struggling before. It's like when you're lifting weights, right? Like that first couple times that you're lifting weights, or like Rocky Balboa when he's running up the steps, right? Couldn't make it up the first step, you know, all the way up without running out of breath, right? And his goal was one day that he wanted to be able to just sprint up it and not be tired. You know what I mean? And it took him a long time to do that. And so there was times he quit. There was times he didn't make it all the way. There was times where he did make it, but he was exhausted, you know? And so it's just one journey, you know? I mean, that's literally the epitome, is like at one time a day he would go and do that. It's like one day at a time, right? It didn't work today. What I wanted didn't work today. But it's not, you don't start over.
Right.
It's a journey. And when people can see it like that, then they don't get so depressed or filled with anxiety about the fact that that they think, you know, they just start thinking that struggling means they're failing.
Right.
Even if you fall flat on your face, you're still moving forward, you know? So just, you don't lose that time. Right. There's so much knowledge in that. But I think that as a society, we're used to punishing people that go back to, like, if you started making bets, we'd be like, oh, well, now we can't talk to him because he's going to take all our money or whatever. I don't know.
Do you play
how that
like
works.
Texas Hold'em on your phone? That's like for free or anything?
Nope. Play anything.
That's kind of like NA beer for us.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Yeah.
so many people that are like, what? Because they
can't
drink NA beer and
Yeah.
they're just like,
Nope.
I'm in recovery. And I'm like, that's cool
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah, do what you do.
Yeah, do you, boo?
Well, with our last 90 seconds, do you guys want to share anything before we get out of here?
I'm going to go shovel.
Mm-hmm.
So
There's that.
there's that. No, I appreciate everybody tuning in. We just did TikTok live for the first time. So I exited out of the Facebook one and gave TikTok a chance. So in the next couple of weeks, we're going to try and find a platform where we can go live on everywhere. And so I appreciate you tuning in on 95.9 with me and Kirsten and Ricky, or Pretty Ricky. We still need DJ names. So
Sure.
that's all I got. You got anything?
Kirsten,
No. Enjoy
Okay.
your week. Be kind.
Awesome. Well, tune in next time, same place. We're going to be talking about helping versus enabling. This is One Pretty Ricky on F5 Recovery Radio, right here on KRFF 95.9 LP FM.